Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to a very special extra interview of Final Cut. And today I'm joined by a lady who is a director, producer, actress, life coach, entrepreneur. So definitely many a first, and she is a woman of many talents. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present to you Brooke Lewis Bellas.
Dean and Final Cut, thank you so much for having me across the pond. To all my wonderful friends and filmmakers across the pond, hello. I hope everyone is healthy. How are you, Dean?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much. And the honor is mine.
The honor is mine. And I'll say it quickly. I said it off air, everyone. And please, everyone out there, we are dealing with so many challenges right now in the world, across the world. And Dean was so gracious to reschedule me as we were supposed to chat 2 weeks ago now, and I got so sick with what I thought was COVID. My husband rushed me to the ER, and gratefully, it turned out to be the flu. So my apologies again. Thank you for rescheduling, but I just want to share that with the world and the listeners because everyone, please stay healthy and follow guidelines. It's so important we do this right now.
Yep. And it's never a problem to reschedule if something's ever cropped up, because like everything, we get there in the end.
Absolutely. Or we would have been chatting with me on a asthma breathing machine in the hospital.
Probably would have been good, but it would have been a first for many. It would have been a first for many people listening.
There you go. Call Daily Mail UK right now.
Well, usually the first question is, how are you? But you've already said, so we'll move on to the next one. How did you get started out in acting?
So I was a very emotional child. I was a little nutty, as we say, and I still am, and I own it and I rock it the best I can. My parents were divorced when I was only 2. And my sister wasn't born until much later through my father's second marriage. So I was alone a lot. And I would watch TV and my mom would be at work and I would have the babysitter. And I started out very young, falling in love with soap operas and TV series. And I literally would sit by the television set on a Saturday night alone and watch TV shows and like talk to the characters as if they were my friends, as if I were in the drama, makes perfect sense now. So that was my first like love of the arts. I loved going to the movie theater. My mom and I would go, just the two of us. She was a single mom and we'd go to the movie theater all the time. So I just was always introduced to that. I loved singing and dancing. And then personally, I started taking some drama classes at like the local Y, believe it or not. And that was such a support system for me. And my friends and I would go take the drama classes. We would take the writing classes. And I'm talking really young. I'm talking, 7, 8 years old young. And so it was a blessing. And when I grew up without much money, it was something that was a great outlet to cultivate my artistic strengths.
So obviously growing up, everyone has an influence. I mean, as I've gotten older, my influence have ranged from Hans Zimmer, Ridley Scott. This is actually not much I've really disclosed before. So this is a first for me, actually, disclosing who my influences are. So
I love it.
It's like Ridley Scott. I mean, Hans Zimmer. I love his work he's done on films like Gladiator and the Dark Knight trilogy. Chris Nolan as well. And obviously, who can forget one of the best movies ever made, which is Gladiator. So for you, who were your influences as an actress?
So and I love yours, by the way. They're obviously brilliant choices, and Gladiator is an incredible, to this day, one of the best films. So
I still watch it,
Yes, I do too. My husband loves that movie. We've done that too. I mean, because they're the greats. And I'm sure since you have a film podcast, we could get into open conversation about that later. But I'm sure you would agree that a lot of current films, they're just not made like films like that anymore,
Not usually, no.
So,
Horror especially.
Oh, 100%. That being said, so my influence is funny. When I was a little girl, of course, like everyone else, I wanted to be Linda Carter. I wanted to be Wonder Woman, right?
Oh, yeah.
When I was like really little. And then I have to graduate up to when I was young, I really fell in love with Marissa Tomei, Mona character in My Cousin Vinny. And you can see she has actually had such an influence on my personal career because I sort of emulated her. She was a character. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast in America, Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, and I'm ethnic and Italian heritage. And, we have that sass, that attitude, we're over the top. That's my true authentic personality. And to me, when you're being authentic as an actor, that's what you want to follow, your own personal, essence, your niche. So that being said, she was such a bright light for me because she showed me, she won the Oscar for My Cousin Vinny, which hadn't happened in years, I believe, where a comedy actress won an Oscar. And so she influenced my Ms. Vampy character in horror. She influenced so many of my choices when I played Rosella in Sinatra Club years ago, opposite Danny Nucci from Titanic and Jason Gedrick from Iron Eagle films. And so I would have to say she's just been such a light for me in my career. And again, moving over to American television, like Leah Remini in King of Queens. So you see where I'm going with that. Those character actresses, right? And then current day, just a shout out to some of Viola Davis, to me, is one of the most brilliant actresses ever in history. Obviously, like between Meryl Streep and Glenn Close, that's an easy one. But to me, there's something so special about Viola Davis and her intensity and her honesty and truth in her work that, and of course, and again, like I said, the obvious, and as far as the British, forget it. Judi Dench and Helen Mirren, and oh my gosh, if you go back to indie cinema, British indie cinema, like Calendar Girls and all of those great indie films and the Full Monty, but they had great female characters as the wives. Those are the films and actresses I love.
And you couldn't have picked two names that have not got a lot, got a lot of royalty behind them, because Helen Mirren and Judi Dench are both dames.
Oh, yes, they are dames, and the dames are the ones who inspire me. And real quickly, a shout out to my two forever more icons and idols, but one is originally from the UK, and that is also, to me, the dame of all dames. Elizabeth Taylor. She is my forever, who I just idolize more than life itself. And Mae West is my other, who, for the reasons that are the obvious as well, that if you trace back to history, these are two women who obviously went through personal and professional conflict repeatedly. They did not have easy lives, but they fought the system to become who they were as empowered women in the Hollywood industry. And they were both really tenacious, strong, empowered women. So they inspire me in that capacity.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, your career is quite vast. I'm talking, for those who don't know this lady's career is like decades long. It started out, I know, sorry about that. It started out in Saturday Night Live in 1997, then you transitioned into a Scream Queen. Was that a route you planned on taking, or did it just happen as it did?
So first, let me say, especially for all the horror and thriller fans listening, number one, I was blessed with the title. I always state that it was bestowed upon me. And what happened was, I was a child growing up in the 80s who loved, raw indie horror films. But I'm talking like when we finally were able to get a VCR or VHS, right? Back in the day, that's how old I am, dating myself. But in the 80s, when we did, I would rent. I'd go down to the video store and I would rent like the greats, the horror greats for all the True Blue fans. Now, let me trace back. Number one, speaking again of British, so Alfred Hitchcock and Agatha Christie are some of my favorites. That is my excitement in the horror world. I love the mystery thriller. So Hitchcock, I bow to him still up above, and Agatha Christie is a favorite. So I also fell in love with Brian De Palma when I was extremely young. I love Brian De Palma films from Blowout, which was shot in my hometown of Philadelphia, and Dress to Kill, Hill. And again, shout out to Michael Caine. So I just had an affinity for that. Crossing over to the greats of the true gritty horror from the original Texas, and I have to stress the original, and I'm a film, connoisseur, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original Prom Night that really made Jamie Lee Curtis a true scream queen, the original Halloween, all of those. So they are my favorites as a child, and I watched and I just loved them. I was obsessed with the original Dracula. I loved vampires. Never did I imagine starting out in comedy, musical theater, singing, dancing. Like you said, I actually, people don't even know, I danced on an episode right out of college of Saturday Night Live, which was an incredible experience. And so that being said, never did I think I was going to become a known scream queen, but life happens, listeners. I want you to hear what I'm saying. Life happens, career happens. There are so many factors out of our control in the film and television industry that you have choices. We have choices. I choose powerfully every day. And we can fight and fight and fight, which I've done a lot of in my career, to get to where we want, and where our dreams lie. Or we can embrace what comes to us. And after doing Broadway and Tony and Tina's Wedding, the mobster comedy off Broadway, actors equity contract for 3 years, 7 shows a week. And after doing all kinds of musical theater tours on off Broadway across the country and doing network sitcoms, I had a recurring role on Fox Quintuplets in 2004 and all of this. And then, but no one who knew who I was, and I'm getting awards and accolades, but no one cares. And all of a sudden, I went to Sundance Film Festival 2004. I was working with a production company with Ken Del Vecchio producing back in New York before I moved to Hollywood, very young. And I had said to him, he wanted to produce something together. I said, I will be your LA liaison with my new production company, Philly Chick Pictures, where I built myself, raised financing, did it all so I could actually play lead roles in films, being a lesser named actress at the time. And I said, I want to do a psychological horror thriller. Sundance 04, the very first Saw franchise film was there. I watched, people came out screaming. You couldn't even buy a ticket. They were sold out. And I said, something is going on with this psychological horror thriller. I want to do one. And I went back to my partners in New York and said, let's create an indie psychological thriller. Now, remember, listeners, back then we shot on 35 millimeter film. Back then you were able to get a limited theatrical release. Back then, if you had a film as we did on Showtime, on Netflix, that was a huge deal. Whereas now we know that there's so much content, and we can talk about that later. Moving on to the story, never did I think I'd become a famous scream queen. And we did the film, and I said, you're going to write me one of the female leads. We're going to surround me with named actors. And so we did. And we had the, rest his soul, Oscar-nominated Charles Durning from Dog Day Afternoon and Tootsie. We had Michael Pare from Eddie and the Cruiser, Streets of Fire, Philadelphia Experiment. Myself, Eric Edibari from Witchblade and Cellular, and the list goes on and on. That being said, we did this film for $500,000 on, a little more, on film. I played the brunette female lead. As production would change as we went after several years of developing this project, and I try my hardest not to judge, but my partners back east decided to go a bit of a different way. They wanted to add a bit more erotica. And so they did. And the film, we went to the film market the following year, and it went from the title Polycarp to Kinky Killers. Kinky Killers. And it was, not what I artistically had set out to do, but I'm sharing details because I want the listeners to hear, again, you have a choice in every moment. You can choose to embrace it or you can run away. I thought my career might be over at that point. My manager at the time called and said, come to the office. We need to talk to you. I said, dear God, I'm in a film with Charles Durning titled Kinky Killers. My career's over. They brought me to the office. There was a stack of fan mail on the desk for me. No one knew who I was before this. After all the years of Broadway and network sitcoms, no one cared. Stack of fan mail. lists of notepaper, sticky notes with horror and sci-fi conventions, inviting the new It Scream Queen to come be a, celebrity guest at the convention, which you guys know, we all love the conventions, the pop culture conventions, for like a nice sum of money. And I'm going, is this even real? Pinch me right now. Because Showtime had picked up the film Kinky Killers, aired it 3 nights a week for 2 years, and that bestowed the title Scream Queen upon me. I embraced it. I ran with it. I feel that I've chosen wisely in that genre and have made good choices of staying as empowered as a woman, an actress. I chose not to do nudity. I haven't even been killed in a horror film. And it served me and I embraced it. So I share that powerfully with your listeners because you choose, if it comes to you, if it excites you, if it can help you move your career further, choose it.
I was about to ask the next question. It says you have a reputation as a scream queen. Is it an honor you want? You kind of have just answered that. So
yes, I did. It is an honor. It is an honor, Dean and the listeners. It was bestowed upon me and I embraced it. And I want to thank my longtime, and like you said, over 20 years in this industry, longtime fans who have stayed with me, supported me through horror, thriller, sci-fi, comedy, drama, TV. It is the greatest fan base you could ever ask for.
It is. Now, I actually do know this to be true. Is it true that you are actually in a Horror Hall of Fame?
Am I? I'm like, am I?
Did you not actually know?
So, what? I know, to share with the listeners, that I was blessed. It was one of the greatest things ever that I won in 2010, the B Movie Award for Scream Queen Horror Actress of the Year. And that was an incredible honor for Greg Lamberson's Slime City Massacre. So what a gift and blessing. But what? Is there something I don't know?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. Is that true?
It could be. That's what my research said.
Well, I would love to know. You'll have to email me and my publicist the information because anything's possible. I mean, I've been blessed again. I've been on the list of the top 10 Scream Queens in 2015 of all time. I mean, it's so surreal. Same thing in 2016. I've been on lists of, the top 10, top 100 Scream Queens of all time, which is, I don't even know what to say about that because humbly, I'm so grateful.
Now, we could talk a bit more about horror if you want before we move off the subject, if you wish.
Whatever you would like, whatever serves your listeners, I'm happy to chat about.
Now, you did mention like Prom Night, Halloween, and all the horror that you like. Have you seen any of the remakes or reboots in the last, say, 10, 15 years that's been made?
Unfortunately, I have, and I'm not a fan. And again, thank you for acknowledging that, Dean. Of any of them. That's why I stress how the original, because it's a different world. And I feel, unfortunately, that they have taken these brilliant indie, for the most part, horror films from back in the day and just made them mainstream and marketing and money. And it's all about Hollywood corporate. And so they have just dumbed them down. Like, don't even get me started on the original Prom Night versus the current Prom Night ridiculousness. I'm sorry.
I know how terrible it is.
Right? It's like they make something smart and heart oriented and they change it to some mainstream picture for like young sorority girls. And I cannot stand it.
I can't. I may cause a bit of controversy with you with my next statement. I definitely did this with myself, actually. Have you seen Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead remake?
I unfortunately have not watched it yet. I gotta be honest.
Now, there's 2 chaps who I do a podcast with. They know about my taste in horror. In fact, me and one of the others actually have a bit of a running, not so much an argument, but a feud about which Evil Dead's better. But Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead is actually better than Sam Raimi's. I know it might sound hard to believe, but it actually is. It was literally done in the mold of how Sam Raimi would do a remake.
That's fantastic. I haven't seen it yet, but I love to hear that. And I actually do believe what you're saying. That is very possible. And I'm thrilled to hear that. I will have to watch it because, like we said, it doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah, do you want me to give you a little taster? 250,000,
Yes.
I believe it was something like either 250,000 tons or litres of fake blood were used in the last scene alone.
You're kidding.
Nope.
See, and I love to hear that because, as we both know, and all the filmmakers know, how often anymore does anyone use a real practical FX versus VFX CGI? So I love when we go back to basics and back to the raw horror that I was always a fan of with practical effects.
Yeah, I must admit, Tom Savini is one of my favourites.
Oh, I love Tom. I've gotten to spend many horror weekends with him. We did, what did we do? And I actually got to do an interview with him. He's so cool. He's so wild. He's so real. We did Horror Hound Indiana Horror Hound weekend for the Horror Hound magazine in 2010. They invited Ms. Vampy to be a celebrity guest, and I got to spend a lot of time with Tom. He is just one of the original greats. He's wild. That guy is wild.
Not to mention he played a character called Sex Machine once.
That's what I'm telling you. He's wild.
So definitely, that's basically his character in From Dusk Till Dawn is literally Reputation.
I love that film.
Who doesn't?
I know.
I'm so keen on the other two afterwards, but who doesn't?
Agreed. The original. The original. You can't beat it. What a great, fun, smart film. Totally. What do you think? Let me ask you. What are your thoughts on like the French horror films?
I haven't really got into that, but I'll tell you what I am a big fan of, Asian horror.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to challenge you and your listeners, for all the true blue horror fans. Okay. Check out a few. I'll give you a quick recommendation list. Check out a few of the French horror films. They're slightly older now. I'm not much, 10 years, 8 years, what have you. And I think you will have a real affinity for them if you are a true cinephile and horror fan. Look at one of my very, very favorites, that a young director that I worked with on my short film Sprinkles, Roger A. Sheck, hooked me into Inside. He knew my taste in noir horror film, and it's titled Inside. It's it's subtitled. It is incredible. And then I would check out High Tension, and I would really check out one of my other favorites is Martyrs. And it is gratuitous, but it is intense and rips your heart out while watching.
If it means anything, I have actually watched some Italian.
Oh, I mean, we could go on and on. One of my friends, Barbara Magnolfi from Suspiria, the original. And again, I go back to the originals. You can't, did I lose you? Are you there?
No, you didn't. That's actually the one movie I've watched, and I only know
Suspiria.
About Yeah.
Suspiria.
Because it's actually Dario Argento, who I've heard nothing but good things about. It is actually on Amazon Prime, but the only problem is it's not what you would call not a movie in the usual sense, but I think Amazon Prime, in actually getting it, actually either lost or couldn't find some of the original footage, so it's kind of had to be, I'll say, improvised in, but it's still got the complete 70s horror vibe to it. We're talking loud music, blood and guts, makes you cringe, all that lot.
Yeah, and again, I go back to, if I had to choose the remake or the original, by far the original Suspiria. I love Dario Argento. Just to share with the listeners, such a wonderful, fun memory that I've had, that I've been blessed with in my career, and I think back and I'm so grateful, was at Weekend of Horrors 2010, I believe it was, 2010 or 2011. I was a celebrity guest, and I was invited to speak on a couple of panels. So I got to spend an entire afternoon with these women, and my goodness, it was Tippi Hedren from the Birds, Alfred Hitchcock. It was Jarita from several, I believe, of the Dario Argento films. It was Barbara Magnolfi. That's how we all became friends, from Suspiria. It was Sybil Danning. It was, I'm trying to think who I'm missing. It was me, Tippi, Sybil. I think that was it. Jarita and Barbara Magnolfi. I mean, if that, for all the old school horror fans listening, if that isn't a blessing that I get to share and I have photos of it, it's amazing.
As far as I'm concerned, that's a blessing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've had some really great experiences throughout my career.
Yeah. So shall we move it on briefly?
Absolutely.
I do want to talk about your current projects, actually, because you've got quite a few out.
Yes.
Yep. So I'll go by the questions. You actually have a lot coming out in the next year or so. We'll start with Stripped, starring yourself, of course, and Casper Van Dien from Starship Troopers. So what is it about, and who do you play?
What an incredible project. And just to clarify for the listeners too, just know, obviously with COVID and we've all been pushed back, like we are still waiting to be able to announce our streaming network next year, and we're gearing up to potentially shoot another season. So what an incredible project. It's a comedy drama. And yes, thank you. I get to star with the amazing Casper Van Dien from Starship Troopers and everything. And so it is a project that is a passion project. Mark Klebanoff, who is a longtime friend of business associate of mine, he's wonderful. He had partnered up a couple of years back, with the late, great Christophe St. John, for all the soap opera fans out there. And I'll never forget, they called one day a couple of years ago and one night and said, we're writing a treatment and a potential TV pilot. We're writing you one of the female lead roles, and it's titled Stripped. And it was about, sort of loosely based on Christophe's life. And then sadly, Christophe had passed away a year and a half ago, and it really tore Mark Klebanoff's heart open. They were best friends. And so Frank Kruger, one of our other producing partners and one of the other stars of the film, who plays Neil the agent. I played Jules, the publicist, and Casper is the star as Chris Cameron. And it's really funny, but it's really heartfelt as well. And so then when Christophe had passed and Frank and I had a meeting with Mark last, I would say, end of summer in 2019, we decided to create the rest of the streaming series, and Mark Klebanoff was the full creator of the show, and we executive produced and produced it, and we worked our butts off, and we did it as a labor of love, almost as an homage to Christophe St. John. We took off to Reno, Nevada last fall, and we filmed. And so it is about a very, very famous TV star who is down on his luck, who, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but sort of gets framed for a crime that he did not commit. He is protecting his best friend, played by Dat Fan, and goes to jail. Comes out, and he had the perfect Hollywood star life with the perfect fiance and the perfect TV series, and his whole life is gone to hell at this point. So he gets out and he has to rebuild and doesn't know how. So he has the quirky, crazy publicist, Jules, my character, who is so great and fun and sassy and mouthy and smart, but silly, and just an incredible role for me as an actress at this point in my life and career, and one that I have been blessed to play. I will share, because I feel like I can right now. It will be out in public, but you're one of the first to hear this. We actually just did a private TV film market screening. Private, I have to emphasize that, because we are waiting to hear from some film festivals. So we made sure we did it on the up and up, and we did it on the download, but properly, respectfully done, not to damage our chances. And so we did at the Nova Fest, and it's Nova TV Film Market back east here in the US. And they did a private screening, and they were and in fact, you guys should check that out, the listeners, because Fernando, I can't thank enough, but also there were a lot of foreign films and a lot of films from the UK that were in their TV stuff too, and some great, great Australian and British actors. So check it out. Go to Nova Fest. That being said, it was the TV market, and we were nominated for several awards, which was such an honor, even though we didn't even do a public screening. And I've been keeping this so secret, but I think I can release it now, that I actually won Best Supporting Actress in a TV Series. And so again, I play the female lead, but I'm supporting to Casper's starring role. And I couldn't have done it without the incredible writing of Mark Klebanoff. I couldn't have done it without acting opposite incredible actors like Casper Van Dien. And it was such a blessing. So that I'm super excited about. It will be streaming next year. I can't reveal anything else at this point, but it's really something I'm proud of. So please, please keep a lookout for it.
I'll keep a lookout for it, and congratulations as well.
Thank you. I'm so excited. So excited.
But you've got other stuff coming out as well. There's a movie called Evolution War as well, I believe. I believe that's what it's called.
There is, and it is directed by Neil Johnson, who I got to do the Starship series with in the past, and stars Tracy Birdsall, and it's a very, very talented group. I am not in the position to reveal any information on that right now because it's still very much in post-production. And so when I can, we'll talk more about it, but that is correct. And that for all the sci-fi fans, definitely something to keep a lookout for in the next year or so.
I'm a sci-fi fan.
There you go. Well, if you are, then let's segue over to one I can speak about, which is another project that I co-produced with my script writer-director, Mark Klebanoff, and it's titled The Morning. And it is a couple years old film, but we finally got the proper distribution deal for it. And it is also, which is always so important for all the filmmakers out there, you hold out until you get a respectable distribution deal. And it's a beautiful film. It is, I have to say, it has a sci-fi twist, but in my heart, it's really a drama romance film. And it's so much about love and life and leaving the people we love and making sure that we get to say all we need to say before our last day. And it's incredible. It's so beautifully shot. For a low budget film that we shot with Michael Renee Walton, who's the star of the film, who wrote it, who produced it. We lived in Holland, Michigan for a month a couple years back. And it is something I'm incredibly proud of, both as an actress and producer. I have a supporting role. I have a really fun role. She sort of lightens up the drama in it for a brief moment. I play Lisa Assface, who was the sort of not attractive girl from high school that they grew up with. And it stars Michael Walton and the amazing Australian actor Lewis Mandylor, who's a megastar from my Big Fat Greek Wedding, who's also in Stripped. You'll see a lot of times we sort of regurgitate the same actors as big mainstream pictures do, because we know who's talented, we know who delivers, we know who we can work with. And that's something that I think is wonderful that Mark Klebanoff and his team does. And I've been fortunate to be a part of it. So anyway, now it's current day, and without giving too many spoilers, I play Lisa Assface. We're at the local bar. I am the girlfriend of Peter Dobson, who's another wonderful actor. And I am like the little sex pot who hangs out at the bar, like the little bar tramp, Lisa Assface. And they don't recognize me because suddenly she blossomed into like sort of I hate to say that about myself because I don't think that about myself, but she blossomed into like a sex pot from like an ugly duckling into whatever. And she's all flirty with all the guys, and she's sort of the town tramp. But it's really to move the story along in the sense that, how much life changes around us. But at the same time, so many things, especially in a small town, stay the same 20 years later. So I'll say that it is currently streaming on Tubi, and it will be on Amazon Prime, we believe, hopefully by January. And it's just a film I'm incredible. It's beautifully shot. Planes, trains, automobiles. You'll see it and you'll be like, this has to be a, $3 million production, and it's not.
Yep. Will it be available in the UK? Because I have Amazon Prime.
I definitely think it would be. So yes, I mean, most of our films are. I know it's so strange, and I get fan mail all the time, and so many of my fans in the UK, are like, oh my gosh, I just watched Kinky Killers. I got to watch Pride and Loyalty, an old film from like 2002 that I got to act in and play a supporting role with Charles Durning, and all these wonderful, and Mark Consuelos, the wonderful actor and soap opera star, Kelly Ripa's husband. All these great actors that I did in 2002 that is no longer on Amazon US, but you can find it on Amazon UK. You can find it on Amazon Australia and New Zealand. So I love that. And I love getting, fan mail and stuff from people that are watching my older films elsewhere than the US, which is great. So it definitely should be, I believe if it gets on, when it gets on Amazon US, it'll be on UK as well.
I look forward to watching it when it comes. I'll say when it comes.
Yes, when it comes. I mean, it's really, like I said, Lewis Mandylor, Dominique Swain. I mean, so many great actors and actresses in this. Yeah. Kinga Phillips. I mean, I really think that you'll enjoy it.
I hope I do. I seriously hope I do, because you've piqued my interest very much.
Yeah, well, you can watch it on Tubi right now, Tubi TV.
Ooh, I might do that, actually. I might forego Amazon Prime.
There you go. And Tubi TV, I believe. I mean, I know it's advertised based, so it's free in the US if you sign up for an account.
I could do. I'll give it a try.
Check it out.
Speaking of my curiosity, I believe you starred in and executive produced a TV series called Red Rooms.
Yes. You're
this
getting
This sounds like proper horror material, so come on, pique my interest even more.
Oh, Dean, you know it. This is one you will love. I already know your taste, and this is one you will love. So let me say this again, a project that for all the listeners, so really interesting. So Joshua Butler and I, for all the horror fans, and I know you all know Joshua Butler, he's incredibly talented. We met many moons ago, 13 years ago now, on the horror circuit. I was traveling the country with a film that I got to star in and executive produce, one of many, Eye Murders, that Robbie Bryan wrote and directed and Ken Del Vecchio produced. And I was so fortunate. It really was one of the films, the one after Kinky Killers, that really put me on the map as a scream queen and a horror actress and a thriller actress. Really, that one solidified my thriller persona, which I loved. And so this is a film I'm incredibly proud of. I got to act in opposite the incredible veteran star Tony Todd, Candyman franchise. Oh yes, Billy D. Williams, for all the sci-fi fans, Lando Calrissian, Gabrielle Anwar, speaking of a brilliant British actress, so, and the list, Frank Grillo. I mean, you can't even get better than this cast that we worked with. That being said, we toured at William Forsythe, Once Upon a Time in America. I mean, veteran greats. So I can't even believe sometimes when I hear myself say who I've worked with. So we got to travel the country for the year promoting Eye Murders. I met on the circuit and we were neck and neck. Joshua Butler, who at the time, for all the real horror fans, had success with a film titled Vlog. Vlog went on, it was so successful, won all the awards, and went on to become an MTV series to be picked up. That being said, Joshua became a huge television director all over the world and went on to do Vampire Diaries and Secret Circle and The Following and The Magicians, and you get the gist. So very successful. We have been dear friends for years and years. We had always wanted to work together, and I said at some point we need to go back to our roots and do something psychologically horror thriller. Long story long, in the fall, with the rest of my projects. And I can't tell you how grateful I am, listeners, because I know how tough of a time it is right now for everyone in the industry. As luck would have it, or I say sometimes we create our own luck, I worked like an animal all fall in 2019 to make sure that I got to act and create and do what I love. We shot a proof of concept for something titled Red Rooms, which wasn't even titled Red Rooms at the time. Quick proof of concept that we were going to create into an indie film. Moving forward, March of 2020, COVID hit. I said to Joshua, we called for a meeting. I called for a meeting. I said, listen, we've got to stay creative, and we talked about how tragic this pandemic would be. And we didn't even know at the time. And we said, we have to stay creative. We have to stay inspired. So I said, I have an idea. Let's take our proof of concept. Let's incorporate, let's shoot the rest virtually. I can do this. I have enough horror fans, associates, friends, and we can do this. We can do this on a micro budget. Philly Chick Pictures will executive produce it and produce it. I will produce it. I will be the sole producer. I need you to be the creator. I need you to take an idea that I have and embellish it. Well, he sure enough did. He went into something, and I know you had acknowledged this when we talked before, like something that's very real and very hardcore. Yeah. So to anyone who doesn't know, because I admit I did not know. I mean, I'm very schooled I've studied the world of, snuff films back in the day with what the heck was that years ago? You're younger, but Faces of Death. Oh my God, for all the crazy horror fans, like Faces of Death I've watched, and so I'm aware of that world. I also am a very big, The Purge and the Purge Anarchy. I'm a big fan of the Purge series and franchise. So we know, with The Purge, it's the best way to explain it. So with The Purge, you know how there's extremely wealthy elitists who pay to have people murdered, to be able to murder people, blah, blah, blah. So in the world of the deep dark web, which Joshua schooled me because his mind works in maniacal ways. He's so genius. And he schooled me about Red Rooms because we wanted to make sure we made it unique and it wasn't just some virtual or reality show, So he schooled me on the dark web. And OMG, what I have learned, and it is very real, and it is all over. There are these secret societies, red rooms. They're red. That's why we titled it Red Rooms. These rooms on the dark web where sickos, and I'm sorry I'm going to say that, sadists, masochists go and pay a lot of money to virtually, these people, subjects are abducted. Like people, it's kind of like almost like the sex trafficking, but not like we're just people who may not be missed or whatever are abducted, or some are abducted. They are held captive. They are tortured. Typically in the standard red rooms, they are tortured physically. And I'm saying this for a reason, and mentally, and people pay money. They pay Bitcoin. They pay, to experience this almost like a game. It's so sick. Well, we wanted to make it more sophisticated. So Joshua took my idea and created an entire umbrella story that connects each of these 5 characters into this red rooms, into this game. And so I had to make an executive decision and said, okay, we cannot have, and it was funny because our actors were so present and so amazing. They're like, well, I have a friend who does, practical effects. Can I have him come over and do full effects on me? I'm like, no, because we wanted to keep it. I said, here's why. I wanted to keep it simple, and I wanted to keep it fair. I'm a very fair producer, and it wasn't fair if someone had that, but one of the other actors had no access to anyone, right? Which was hard enough, listeners, because we shot this during COVID. We shot this I pre-produced it in March, shot it in April, posted it starting May. We are still in post-production. So that I want to share for the listeners. Like I said early on, I'm giving you a lot of information, but what we went through to film this virtually was mind-blowing. It was such an incredible lesson for both Joshua and I. It's unbelievable. I mean, so much work. If you think about it, you're like your own entire crew. Number 2, because of pandemic and because of COVID, it clearly has pushed us back. Joshua faced a lot of challenges doing the CGI and VFX himself, as opposed to having a full team. So I have to give him props for that. Like, he fell behind with stuff with editing. Everybody is trying to just survive right now and manage. And so I give props to anyone who's been able to create it all during this pandemic. That being said, we have been working our butts off. We're still in post-production, and it was just an incredible experience. Shout out to our unbelievable cast who gave so much, from David Alpay, Vampire Diaries, Suze Lanier Bramlett, The Hills Have Eyes, Ricky Dean Logan, Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Noah Blake from Teen Witch, Teen Wolf, a huge TV star when he was young and also has gone on to do several horror films, and myself. And it was an experience of a lifetime that I hope we don't experience it in this way again, because it was really hard in every way, but incredible in every way. And it is truly brilliant. And if one thing I can be certain of, and Josh we are both, unfortunately and fortunately, and something that bonded us years ago, we're incredible perfectionists. We're incredible professionals. We're incredibly hard on ourselves and self-deprecating and self-judgmental and critical. And so when you have people of that ilk who, and as hard as it is to be that kind of person, but you have people who I don't ever want to put anything out to the world that's not, up to a standard that I feel I want to put out at this point in my life and career. I'm not 25 anymore. And so we want it to be perfect as it can be. So we are working diligently to bring the audience that. That being said, I have to say, talk about blessings. And this is where, again, I got to shout out to the horror thriller world. I mean, I've had meetings with showrunners already. I've had streaming, and TV networks, like people who are looking for quality horror to stream. It's been a blessing. And so I really feel like we're going to have something incredible to share in another year.
Yeah. Is that, I'm just trying to word this rightly. Is it a bit weird knowing that you filmed something that could actually happen in real life?
It is crazy, right? It is so crazy. It's creepy. And I think, Dean, that's such a wonderful question, because I think for the real horror thriller fans out there, and for myself, that's the kind of thing, right? Exactly. Like the real authentic ones like us. And I think real cinephiles too. Like, that's what makes a film true and real and that much creepier to me. It's why when I think about, like, something like an I Murders Even, that's a mystery thriller, or something like an Alfred Hitchcock. Like to me, that could happen. Brian De Palma, I think about Dress to Kill and how many crazy psychiatrists there legit are out there, who are doing things like to and with their patients based on their psychological profile. Like it can happen. And that's what makes it that creepy. Like I play, so to share in detail for the listeners, and I don't talk about it enough because I try not to overdo projects that haven't come out yet, but my role is incredible and obviously something that drew me and excited me to be a part of this and to executive produce and produce it. I play Layla Black, and she is sort of loosely based as a female Harvey Weinstein. She is a sexual assaulting mega star producer in Hollywood. And we went, and it was a role that I had brought to Josh's attention that I said, I want, and obviously last year, everything was relevant at the time in the media. Yeah. I'm like, what about having a female sort of loosely based version? And so to me, could it be even that, does it make it that much more real? It made it that much more real for me because this crap happens all the time in real life, right? So you take that instance, incorporate it in his umbrella story. And when I was in captivity, I don't want to give it away too much, but in captivity, tied up, we'll say, I don't want to give away because we made sure that each captive had a different bondage, a different way of being held captive. And so in my captivity, I could feel the realness and the truth of this could really happen because this does happen in Hollywood in my subtext story. And then the overall story, like, would I believe it if I abused these actors and that someone came back to have revenge on me? Absolutely. That's the truth.
There's always somebody who's always out for revenge. There always is.
That is absolutely true. And that is 100% true. And what made me just kind of triggered me because I think more so in this day and age than ever. And in their defense, I would never defend anyone who abuses another, who murders another, who tortures another. But I think psychologically in the world we live in now, no matter where you are, people have more and more justified reasons to have revenge, to not have revenge. I want to be very PC about what I'm saying because you know what I'm saying. I don't condone violence or abuse in any way. I'm saying that I can even, let me speak for myself. I think I've been wronged or damaged, now at this age and in this point in my career where, so many people are so greedy these days and they're so out for themselves and fame and being famous on social media and all these things that are so not true and real and authentic that I feel like more and more, there's so much bullying in the world for young people. And so it's like, no wonder if you were being beaten and bullied as a high school kid or whatever, for being unique or different or LGBTQ or, wouldn't you have a right to feel vengeful on someone? Yes. So the sad part is, which is where I know you love and I love to go, does life imitate art? Does art imitate life? It's like, don't people have more and more reason to feel vengeful at this point in time in life? There you go.
So obviously my curiosity is severely piqued now. So any idea, aside from, I know you said some point next year, but do you have a rough date for me and everyone listening?
Do I have what?
A rough date about when it will be out, because I am really
Red Rooms?
fascinated.
No, we have not even signed our distribution deal yet. We are still in full-blown post-production. I know it's funny because all the horror fans are dying for Red Rooms to come out, and I'm so excited about it. For me as an actress, for the cast, it's the performances are incredible. So we have no street date. In fact, that's so crazy. Speaking of street dates, I wish I could tell you because The Morning just recently released, on Tubi. We're waiting for it to come out on Amazon Prime. I'm waiting. Happy anniversary to Slime City Massacre. It's our 10-year release anniversary. We have been waiting. Greg Lambers and I drive him crazy. I email him once a week. I'm like, dude, when is our street date for Slime City Massacre to come back out on Amazon Prime? UK everywhere. We don't know. It's supposed to be out by the end of this year, by the end of 2020. This is what's so crazy. Again, shout out, speaking of the Hitchcockian fun zombie movie, shout out to The Day of the Living Dead, Thomas Churchill, my director, who I love, another friend of mine since New York City years ago. So we're still waiting. He and I were just talking on the phone last week, and I'm like, dude, when is The Day of the Living Dead coming out for all the zombie fans? All my fans are asking for it. We don't know. He's like, I wish I had a street date. I know, I'm driving everyone crazy. So again, unfortunately, everything has been slightly pushed back. Again, there's so much content coming out right now because of COVID, and streaming networks need it, that, everything's pushed back. So I'm hoping all these films will be out by the beginning of the new year, I would hope. But Red Rooms will be next, I would say next summer, the earliest, probably the fall.
Right, I'll keep an eye out for when the weather is actually warm in England, not when it's freezing cold like it is now.
Is it freezing there? Do you know it was 82 degrees in Hollywood, California yesterday?
Oh, the envy, the jealousy has just been peaked. We actually had it snow last week here.
Oh, wow. Well, it is December. I forget because it's so warm here. Yeah. I miss the seasons.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah.
So come on, Second Age of Aquarius. I am really, really intrigued by this. So
you should be.
Details.
I will give you the dirt. So another one this one I'm proud of in like a million different ways. Like, it's so special because let me say this. I have to give her, she's one of my best friends in the world, Stacey Lane Wilson, who we know and love, super talented, one of the most amazing writers. I hope she gets the credit for the writing that she does one day, because she's really brilliant. And again, girl power for all the female filmmakers out there. And we did a short film together. She's directed a bunch of my stuff, like my Ms. Vampy stuff, Ms. Vampy's Love Bites, like stuff over the years, my coaching videos. And so we did a film that I'm incredibly proud of, a short film, which is on Amazon Prime in the UK as well, shout out, titled Psychotherapy, that I got to star in with Ricky Dean Logan. So that being said, she wrote me this incredible role that I'm so proud of in Psychotherapy, that I won graciously a lot of Best Actress awards for. And so that being said, we'd wanted to work together again on something else. She had a project that she originally did not want to insult me and offer me a small role in, and it's titled The Second Age of Aquarius. And she wrote this with the famed Darren Gordon Smith from Repo, a genetic opera. And they wrote this because they write so well together. They're so wild and nutty together, but in such a creative way. And he is an incredible producer of music and composer. So they wrote this. It's so funny. It's a comedy with a sci-fi twist, with a hologram, with music. And it is titled The Second Age of Aquarius. And it stars Christina Kalf, Michael Ursu, Keishan Giles, Martin Olson, and the list goes on. And I actually play a supporting role. And I played Tawny Stevens. Talk about fun. So Stacey had come to me personally, and they had financing for the film, lost financing for the film. Mm-hmm. She was so passionate about it. I said, let me read the script. Last year, I fell in last fall, or end of last summer, I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is something special. This is so indie artistic to me. These are the films I came up loving, the films I love, these micro budget films that can go to like a South by Southwest or a Rain Dance overseas, or the real heartfelt film festivals that still love heart and art. That's what I say, heart and art. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with it. So there was a supporting role. I was like, she goes, I don't want to insult you that it's a small role. I go, I want it. I'm going to help you executive produce it. I'm going to raise financing for you. And I want to do this with you. And so we did. And I've been sort of a loose, executive producer and producer all along. I'm privy to all the meetings and the emails, and it's just exquisite. And it is in post-production now. Nina Herton is the editor. She's doing a stellar job. And I play Tawny Stevens, Alberta Stevens is the star. And she is a young woman suffering from agoraphobia. And she moves from our hometown of New Jersey out to California, like Silicon Valley will say, to take this really great tech job and IT job. but she works from home because she's agoraphobic. And so she has created this entire world to support her life indoors. And it's really smart, but funny as hell. And she was influenced by this old school rock band, sort of think like a Led Zeppelin, right? Back in the day, that Nana, my mother, as her mother, generationally, were very different. So because I was a super, super young mom, I had her when I was like 17 years old, Nana sort of raised her on old rock music. Well, I was more of like the 80s. So I'm still that New Jersey 80s, stuck in the 80s rocker mom in leopard pants, big jersey, like think Tawny Katane video vixen, hair, makeup. It is perfect. I'm in like rocker shirts, like concert shirts from the 80s. And so I'm Tawny Stevens, the mother to Alberta Stevens. So she calls me a lot. I'm still back in New Jersey while she's out here. And we have this crazy relationship, and it is so much fun. And it's just, again, a long time post-production as needed to make it perfect. Incredible music that they've been going into the studio and recording via COVID, which is not easy. And it's just perfect. So it'll be out next year. Again, no street date yet.
Yeah. I was just about to say, I have actually gone over the quick notes of it, and it does literally sound like a musical version of Weird Science, only without carnage.
Yes. And how much does everyone, including myself, love Weird Science?
Everyone in the 80s who knows about it loves it. I mean, did you know that actually starred a very young Robert Downey Jr.?
Yes.
Yeah. How different does he look now?
Yes. And how different did his career go?
I know.
Who would like to have that career?
Who knows? Lightning might strike twice.
You never know.
You never know.
Anything can happen. It's the world of make-believe. It
is indeed. I was about to say the next question, but you've kind of already answered it, so I'll just skip that. You've won many awards over the years, including a Best Actress award. So if anybody doesn't really know you, I think it's fairly safe to assume that on hearing that, they know you're quite talented.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. That means honestly more to me than anything, more than fame, more than money, more than, I always say that, like, all I truly want is to be a good actress and to have people think I'm talented, honestly. And that's more to me than any social media fan base and any, and my fans I'm so grateful for, but I don't, I've always been in it for the art. And, I've made choices in my career that may not have always been the most sound choices to get me to that next artistic level and that I'd like to do very much, but I think I've made some pretty good choices. And even in the campy horror comedy stuff I've done, I think I've chose wise roles and smart roles. And for all the listeners, like, for example, and I bring it up all the time, like in Slime City Massacre, and Greg Lamberson and I was on board as a co-producer very early on and helped him produce the project and put everything together and raise a little bit of money. And like, he said to me, and we had Debbie Rashawn always in mind for one of the leads. And he said, you choose which role you want. And I ended up choosing, and I've done this a couple of times in my career, a supporting role, a supporting lead with, solid role. But sometimes I choose roles that inspire me, that are part of my niche, that speak to me, that I hope I can do a better job in than going for, let's say, a lead role that I don't feel I can bring my best to the table. And so I really just want to be a good actor.
That's all we hope you can be. That's all your fans hope you can be as well.
Yep. And you try and you don't always succeed. And I've been trashed in the media over the years and on blogs. And I got trashed for eye murders and learned a lot of lessons. My acting was trashed. Everybody thought I was wrong, poorly cast. I was trashed. So that I learned the lessons pretty early on. And, all we can do is be our imperfect selves and try not to make the same mistakes again.
Yep. It's always the true fans that stick by you no matter what.
At 100. like 100. I can't even believe sometimes I get, like I said, even just messages on social media, which I am grateful for because it does connect me to those fans. And they're just like, hey, Brooke, I'm watching Pride and Loyalty right now. Like I said, brought up before, in the UK on Amazon. Like, oh, Brooke, I'm watching, Kinky Killers. I'm watching I Murders. Like they'll send me pictures of them watching my films. And it's just incredible that they're watching films I did 15 years ago.
Hmm. Speaking of movies you did once upon a time ago, like you've already mentioned how you starred with some famous faces like Billy D. Williams, Tony Todd, William Forsythe. Is it true that you actually played Mark Ruffalo's girlfriend once?
I heard you on one of your movie podcasts talking about Mark Ruffalo, and I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to ask me about Ruffalo.
I do my research.
Yeah. Listeners, you hear me deflating in this moment. So I will try to make this short, but my stories are long, but this is powerful. So when I was right out of college, extremely young in New York City, signed with Paradigm Agency and Live and Large doing Tony and Tina's wedding, I auditioned, got a call back, and got cast in the film titled 54. Notorious film with Michael Myers and Neve Campbell and Salma Hayek, and the list goes on and on. It also starred up and coming. We were all very, very young. Ryan Phillippe and I are around the same age, coming from Philadelphia, and we were all very unknown, up and coming. And so Ryan Phillippe and Mark Ruffalo were Ryan Phillippe was one of the leads and Ruffalo was one of the supporting, and Dominic Lombardozzi from Ray Donovan and everything, Entourage, so I get cast as Rico's girl, Mark Ruffalo's girlfriend in the film. And we had a young director, shout out to Mark Christopher, who we chat still on Instagram, and Miramax actually produced it. And they shot between New York and Canada. And I was cast as Rico's girl, and I was brought to set on like a Monday, we'll say. I had my own trailer in the honey wagon. I was treated like an absolute rock star. I was playing a little New Jersey Guidette. Here you go again. Again, let me repeat, early on in our conversation, emulating Marissa Tomei Mona and My Cousin Vinny. And when I booked this, my agent sat with me and said, you are going to be the next Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny. You are projected to be that. I had been up for some big TV series playing that typical role, and I thought my life was about to change. So go on to set the first day, hanging out with Mark Ruffalo, Dominic Lombardozzi, Ryan Phillippe, and in my honey wagon, everything's fabulous. Well, we're there for 13 hours. They're way behind. And the AD, female AD, that I have to shout out to, because I remember that, because I remember it was such a rarity in the business to ever have a woman of that, to that magnitude on a crew at that point. And beautiful female AD grabs me. She says, honey, I'm so sorry. We're so behind today. We're going to cut you and we're going to bring you back tomorrow. So they did. This happened, moving the story along, 3 different days. By day 3, now they have to pay you for all the days, which is great. So by day 3, happens again. And I knew there was something not right. And Miramax apparently had gone way over budget and cut the last 5 scenes of the film completely out, 2 of them being mine. That said, got to know the guys so well. I have pictures to show it everywhere. I'll never forget. I went back to, they said, we were so stressed out. They're like, let's go to Ryan's suite at the hotel in New York City for a drink. They were like, I was like one of the guys hanging out with them, having some cocktails, and waiting to see if we were being brought back the next day again. And lo and behold, that was it. They cut the 5 scenes. I was never to be the next Marissa Tomei Mona and My Cousin Vinny. And I still to this day get residual checks from Miramax, and talk about a life lesson that would have probably changed the trajectory of my career. And it's happened a couple of times for me. And so for all the listeners, I share that, and you can hear my deflated voice and my heartbreak, because it truly was, and to this day still is, heartbreak for me. But at the same time, it tested on a positive. I like to always end on a positive, make it a positive. For all the listeners, and why I segue back to everything I say, there's a method to my madness, and it is madness. But early on, if you heard me, I said, we embrace what comes to us, and we can either keep fighting and clawing for things that we can have, or that we lose, or that we think. I mean, if I, it's the crazy thing is, for all the listeners, like TV and people and actors listening, it's like, all the things that you have not seen of my career. And I've shared a lot of blessings, but I could also share all the TV pilots that I played, got cast as the female lead in, like Mafiosa for Comedy Central, to play Bobby Costanzo from Joey's dad from Friends as my father, and Johnny Roastbeef from Goodfellas, and Jeremy Luke from Mob City, and the list goes on and on, all these brilliant actors, and then the show doesn't get picked up. I played the female lead. I played the mafia daughter from Philadelphia back in 2005, again, projected to be a megastar on TV. Didn't happen. A couple episodes of Quintuplets on Fox, the show got canceled. So all the things that the viewers, listeners, fans do not see of a career, years, and all the ebbs and flows. And so that's why I say you do this because you love it, listeners. There's no other reason to do it. And you keep on moving forward no matter what hits you take. And I've taken a lot.
Everyone takes a lot of hits in their own right. I mean, I've had a few points of, I'll say, confidence crisis about whether to continue or not, but I'm still going strong. And I've actually got two friends who do my podcast with me now, which has kind of solidified my faith in continuing what I'm doing.
So, Dean, I have a question for you. This is the life coach in me. This is the creative in me. What keeps you going? And I want a real, deep, authentic answer for the listeners. What keeps you going?
All right. A real, authentic, deep answer. All right. To be honest, my fiance is the one who keeps me going.
Oh, I know it sounds that.
Cliche and a bit movie storyline, but honestly, it is. There's times where I wake up in the morning and I just don't want to carry on what I'm doing, but she always makes me see the light of what I've done. Everything I've done up until this point, I've got so much to look forward to. And to be fair, I can actually share a bit of a spoiler. I actually do have a lot to look forward to in the next couple of months. I'm not going to say anything, but I do actually have a lot to look forward to. But if it wasn't for her and her not so much constant nagging, but I'd prefer to think of it as constant reminders of everything that's happened and everything that will come, that I'm still here.
I love it because she's your rock. She's your support. Yeah. My husband's the same for me. And for all the listeners out there, listen, whether you're single, whether you have your person, my life is very different now. My husband and I discuss that a lot. I mean, I definitely was so much more of a party girl before, and I was out in the scene. We're just talking about this recently, and it's part of COVID too, where nobody's out networking. I was the queen of networking. I hustled. My Cat's PR here will tell you, I did so many beautiful, amazing red carpet events. That was my jam. I loved it, getting glammed up and meeting people. And that's gone right now for everyone in COVID. But when you have now I'm married, I took off 2 years pretty much to produce a wedding. And so that's why I got so crazy full force in the fall. And I'm saying this for a reason, but I want the people to hear that when you have your person, I don't care if it's, you're dating someone that's there for you as your rock, like Dean said, his fiance is his inspiration, is his muse, is his support system. I'm the same way. And your life may be different in a different way, but to have that person who supports you and makes you believe in yourself is priceless, truly priceless. So everyone who has that, cherish it. Everyone who doesn't, allow it in. It took me until I was, 40 years old to allow that person in. And so there's nothing more beautiful than having that muse and inspiration. Now, on another level, deeper, I'm going to go with you. I want to ask you, so what is it that your fiance says or does that reignites that fire, that creative juice inside of you that makes you get excited about, your show?
Yeah, truthfully, we have sort of like a schedule on a Monday where she tells me what I've got coming up. I mean, she told me, I think it was earlier in the week, I had you rearranged for this week. And I'm like, oh, goody gumdrop, she's coming.
Oh, thank you.
So whoever's on the agenda for this week, I actually do get quite excited because I kind of feel like half of the interviews that I've actually had, I wouldn't have had if it hadn't been for her.
Oh.
And I don't mean to gloat about this, but I actually interviewed a couple of months ago, I think it was, someone who I had actually wanted to interview since I started doing this.
Ah.
Did we tell you who she was? Or who
yeah,
she is?
Can you? Are you allowed? Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm allowed. Yeah, because it's already been up. It's been up and posted. So yes, I can. Have you heard of the name Rada Mitchell?
Oh my gosh. Hello. Yeah. Of course. I mean, yep. I'm a genre fan.
I was literally, this is 20 years ago when she really hit the big time. I literally watched just about everything that I could, and she just blew me away with her complete and utter sincerity of how she played the characters. It's like, it was kind of like she couldn't play a bad role because you just wouldn't believe it, because she's just so lovely and so nice.
Yes, and beautiful.
That you never had, but you wanted, or the mother you never had but wanted.
She's so beautiful too.
She is. Honestly, it's not very often I say this, but I could not have met a nicer woman. And if anyone thinks, oh, he's just saying that because of this and the other, but genuinely, she is one of the nicest people I've ever met, and probably one of the nicest ones I will meet.
That is so sweet.
Not you, of course, because you are.
Thank you. I love that story.
Yeah, I didn't want to dig myself in the doghouse, so to speak, so I just thought I'd include you in it as well.
Thank you. I love that story, and she's amazing. She's so amazing.
She is. Right. Just move back on track before I start getting a bit
Well, wait, I don't even know what's your fiance's name.
Melanie.
Melanie. Hi, Melanie. I have to tell you, and I'm also, I used to be a dating expert back in the day as well. And your man, Dean, here is smitten with you. So you're doing a great job.
I'll make sure she listens to that. I will actually, because she, honestly, if I could give her, I've given her everything I had. If I could give her more, I would.
Well, I think you're giving her plenty, and she knows it, because you can tell that you genuinely are mad about her.
Yeah, I am. Well, I won't say mad, but I'll say bonkers. That's
bonkers. I love it. See, everyone, all the listeners, look, it's becoming a love show. But really, we all need love right now, and we all need support right now. And as much as this pandemic and COVID have torn apart so many things, it's been something beautiful to bring people together as well.
Yes. Can I just pick your mind for a minute, just before dating advice for everyone else? You mentioned Miss Vampy earlier and the follow-up. How difficult is it for you to make a series from what you think it's going to be, from its inception to its creation?
Oh, that's a great question. So, yeah, that's a great question. So, gosh, I could get into 9 hours of answering that, and I know we can't on the podcast now. Let me say this for you and the listeners. So, oftentimes, so as a producer, and here's where it's very challenging for me if I answer in honestly, because for me, there's always Brooke Lewis Bellas actress versus Brooke Lewis Bellas producer. And that is probably the most challenging thing for me, because anytime I would ever get involved in producing a project, I'd have to be playing a lead in it for the most part at this point in my career. And so it's so challenging, because oftentimes, I mean, let's start with, you find a script. You know, I'm not traditionally a screenwriter. I don't fancy that. I respect writing so much. I respect directing so much. That's why I cringe when anyone says I directed one Ms. Vampy series and never again. It is way out of my comfort zone. And I respect directors so much. That being said, you find a script. So sometimes I'm very challenged in that capacity, because I'll read a script someone sends me and I get hooked into the role as an actress right away. And I have to then step back, read the script again, and go, okay, stop looking at it as an actress, Brooke. Start looking at it as a producer. Is this marketable? Who is the target market? Is it your audience? Will this make money? It is a business. So it's very tricky, because you never know from inception to what will be on screen. I've had, been involved in projects that have taken, like Sinatra Club, and I share this a lot, but I think it's so relevant for filmmakers to listen. We set out to make a project. I found the script in 2004. We shot it in 2009 and distributed and released it originally through Warner Brothers and a limited theatrical in 2011. That is 7 years. So that project, why I mention it, is 7 years of my life and career. It changed so much from the original script. Then they brought in new writers, then they brought in other writers, then they brought in several directors. It changed so much that you almost, on a project of that magnitude, that large, almost can never predict what it will be from inception to delivering, to distribution, to finally the final analysis. It changes so much. Now, when it's a project that I own, something like a Ms. Vampy, okay, and I share that, and it's such a great example that you brought up, because I originated Ms. Vampy through the horror world, originally like an Elvira type who was an icon idol of mine. She originated as a horror talk show host with comedy, with vignettes. I had, the first original Ms. Vampy talk show was all indie horror stars, my dear, dear friends that I brought in to work with me. We had a blast doing it. We shot it at Drax Studios. It was incredible. However, as it grew, as my character grew, and as the fan base grew, and I was so grateful for that, I just felt that for me personally and professionally, I could have gone on to do more campy, comedic, blood and gore, fun, effects style talk show like the first one. But I wanted to have a greater impact for me personally. It was just who I am, what I wanted in my career. And I said, I am embracing being a horror icon, but I need it to have something positive messages. And by the second series, it was a TV pilot and streaming series titled Ms. Vampy's Teen Talk. She's a comedic mobster Brooklyn vampire, for those who don't know, inspiring teen girls. And it was Ms. Vampy's Teen Talk. There's a lot of power in your choices is the book that I ended up writing from that. Another inspiration that's all over Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. And so Ms. Vampy's Teen Talk, Tween Talk, and In Between Talk was a pilot award-winning sort of teen talk show for girls, talking about positive messages and challenges that teen girls go through. So if you want to talk about night and day, then we went on, which Stacey Lane Wilson and I did with Matt Robb years later, 6 years ago, to do Ms. Vampy's Love Bites. And I took what was prominent in my career at that point, which was being a board-certified life coach and dating coach, and we did Ms. Vampy's Love Bites with Ms. Vampy, which is all over. In fact, overseas, it's on, go check it out on Hiveo, which is UK, Australia, New Zealand, hiveo.com. You can watch all the episodes and streaming series there. And it's also on MsVampy.net, which is my Ms. Vampy website. And so we went to do what was relevant then, which was a funny adult dating comedy little vignette streaming show. So that's how much, to answer you, things change from year to year, creation to creation. I mean, right now we're back pitching for a TV series, Vamp It Out, which is, again, a TV series for teen girls. So I've been all over the map with her. That being said, same thing with Red Rooms. It started out with my original idea. I went to Joshua to shoot a simple idea of people being held captive, in a reality sort of version, to him creating this umbrella brilliant story that I can't give away, but talk about a mystery twist of these characters all having a history together in some way. It's crazy.
Now, you've been a producer. Well, you've been a producer, as you've stated. I believe you've been an executive and a producer as well. You've wrote, you've directed, which you said you wouldn't do again. And you've been the leading lady in movies. So which would you say is the easiest part? Is it the producer? Is it the writer, the director, or the actress?
I would say they are all incredibly challenging and difficult in their own right. I would say the easiest for me in my authentic truth is I'm an actress. I'm an actress through and through. And anything I've ever produced or executive produced or co-produced has been so I can act, so I can be afforded those lead roles, supporting lead roles, like I've said. So all incredibly challenging. I think acting is to do it right and to do it well and to have those beats and moments that are so rare. And I'm not an actress that it doesn't come easy for me. I've had to work incredibly hard at it. Honestly, I've always had to be coached. I always second guess myself. I've not trusted myself enough as an actress in the past. I'm getting better and better as I get older. And so for me, it's very hard. It's a lot of work. I don't memorize the lines very easily. I hate memorization because you want to make it real, but I have to work really hard to process the script and do my homework. So that's very hard for me, but it's the thing I love the most. So it's the most joyful and exciting for me. So it's the easiest in that capacity. Producing is brutal. So, but I'm very good at it, and it comes second nature to me. I'm a really good leader. I'm a really good business person, and I'm a really good person I'm great at negotiations. I'm great at contracts. I got into law school years ago. So for me, it comes easy, but it is an unbearably tragic amount of work. When I'm producing something, I tend to work 18 hours a day. It's torturesome. And I'm also, but I'm a fair producer. I try to make sure that everyone is happy. I try to please people far too much. That's probably the hardest thing for me about producing. Executive producing is dreadful. Executive producing is probably the hardest at this climate and day and time for me. There were times where I was so blessed to create situations and scenarios for myself, like a Sinatra Club, where I tapped into production companies and banks that were able to put in, $1 million to $2 million for films. That was back in the day. Once the economy crashed 2009, I was done in that capacity for raising large amounts of money. But I used to work very hard to develop projects and raise financing. Now, and I'm honest about it. And for all the listeners, people come to me, oh, can you raise $1 million for my film? I laugh. I'm like, no, but I can probably raise 10,000. And there's the honest truth. The climate is so different now. So raising large chunks of money is one of the most difficult things I think in the world right now.
It is. Are you ready to engage your inner life coach a little bit more now?
I am happy to, if you'd like to.
Right, so this next part is a little section I ask everyone. There's about 5-6 questions. Everyone usually has no problem with them. Now, obviously, current events, I don't know if you know or not, but HBO Max has decided to release Wonder Woman 84 both on HBO Max and in cinemas. So with that being said, do you think that's the way, something like that is the way forward, or will it just stay mainly with cinema?
I sadly believe, and I think COVID has proven something that we all knew was coming. And I think that sadly it is going to be the wave of the future. I think that in the future world, I do believe cinema will always exist, the theater that I love so dearly, that I've had my whole life. And I think there will always be the larger cinemas that will have the IMAX style, action film, right? Like there'll always be a Chinese cinema here in Hollywood. There will always be that. They will be fewer and far between. I believe they mostly will shut down. I believe that the little smaller independent cinemas will not be able to sustain because Netflix and Amazon Prime and Peacock TV, and we could go on and on and on, will just grow and grow and grow. And I think that in the future we're looking at, and I had this vision years ago, and I mean it, like I'm very intuitive. I think that more and more we're looking at the family of 4, we'll say, that will be in their home, in their house. They will have a movie-sized screen on their wall, maybe not that big, but you know what I'm saying, extra large, extra large flat screen TV on the wall. It will be cut into the 4 sections, and each family member, mom will have her Lifetime movie on, dad will have his sports show on. I'm being, I hate to be cliche, but you get them. I'm making a point. Little Annie, the daughter, she'll be watching her favorite animation show, and the son will be watching his favorite zombie film. And they will have, whether they have the goggles on for AR, VR, or whether they're just watching like a normal television, and they will have their own remote control to regulate their program. And that will be the wave of the future for a movie.
Wow, that's actually quite a vision you see.
I said it first, didn't I? You can sell this in 10 years.
You can make a movie out of that, actually.
I think people are. Yep. I think people are actually making movies like that right now. From what I hear, associates are making those type of, Zoom style pictures where they're shooting virtually because of pandemic, and they are cutting the screen into like the Hollywood squares, like the Brady Bunch for all the older people watching, and I think that that's how they're going to be making more and more content.
Because a lot of people are like, yeah, cinema still has a place. Cinema doesn't have a place. They've never gone into as much detail as you described to do.
Well, I look at things from a greater, broader perspective. Like it makes me so sad, and I feel sickened by this in the world right now. And I hate to even I don't get into politics. I don't get into religion. I don't get into any of that finance, but I fear, I don't like to do that. But let me say this, the comparison why I mention it is I feel that the world in general is getting smaller, even though it's so big. And I feel that, especially with the pandemic, it breaks my heart, but I fear this to be true, and it's so equated to entertainment, the haves versus the have-nots, it's growing exponentially. And more and more and more, there's going to be the haves, which is going to be the small percentage, and then the have-nots, which is going to be the larger percentage. And there will be no more middle class, and there will be no more middle of the road in life and in career. And unfortunately, I think the entertainment business is going to be exemplary of this, where there's going to be the mega stars, and that's going to be the top, what it used to be the top 5%. It'll go down to like 2%. And then there'll be the rest of us, who I can be probably a working actress and have even more opportunity for less money, less pay, less notoriety. There'll be 7,000 streaming networks. No one will have the opportunity to become a megastar celebrity anymore. And that's just the way it's going to be. And that's sad. I don't mean to be negative, but I feel it to be true.
It is a bit of a grim future, but it's also a future that might very well happen.
And again, on the positive, all the opportunity for people like myself that are not A-list stars, people like the rest of us who would never have had an opportunity to do a Netflix series or a Hulu series 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they may actually consider us now, which is great, because we're all just going to be working actors, working directors, working producers. That's what I think.
Yeah. Obviously, we've talked about struggles and how I've literally told you how I think of getting up every day and thinking of quitting. So if somebody, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a singer, dancer, actor, doesn't matter what it is or who it is, if they came to you tomorrow and said, help me, I'm thinking of quitting, what would you say to them?
I would say what I've said to many friends, clients, associates over the years, and myself, most importantly, I've said it to myself every year. I would say, if there is anything else that you can be excited about, inspired to do, compelled to do, you need to do it. If there's anything else that equally, I've said that to myself for 20 something years. If the Brooke, and I've prayed and I'm like, let me wake up tomorrow and want to be a psychologist. Let me wake up tomorrow and want to be a teacher. Anything else, let me be excited about. And unfortunately for me, it hasn't happened. So year after year. And that's how I know I have to stay true and committed to my goals and dreams and what I do. It's part of my life. It's part of who I am. And that, I think, will be until I'm 100. So for anyone listening, if there's anything else, if going out and becoming a gardener or a florist excites you and lights you up inside as it does to being a screenwriter, go do that, because you'll have a lot more ability to sustain and to live a balanced life. But if it's about, I also would say, and I think this is the life coach in me, and I have to check myself with this too, are you choosing to leave the creative industry because out of fear or out of honest, authentic truth to your soul? If it's out of fear, you cannot leave. You cannot quit. You must keep going. You have to push through that fear. Don't ever let fear break you. If it's just fear, if it's just that you're in one of the ebbs and flows in the deep, dark abyss of the ebb, don't ever, ever give it up. That's what I would honestly say. Never quit. But I also want to say this, and, I've spoken many times, and I'm a proponent about education, educating yourself, taking courses, taking workshops. Now they're more than ever virtually. Educate yourself. I also think there's a reality to the business. I think that the business of the business, and people don't, I think it's so important for people listening to your podcast as a film podcast. There's a business side to the business that people don't want to acknowledge. They think just because they're talented, just because they're hardworking, oh, I'll make it. That's not the truth. So you have to pay attention to the business side of the business. And there's a reality, it's like, and I use me as an example, and I'm very clear on this. Like if I think at, 40 years old, like if I think I'm going to be the next Julia Roberts tomorrow or Kate Beckinsale tomorrow, the chances statistically business-wise are slim to none. And I'm okay with that. That's never been my dream. But there are some people I know who, 30, 40, 50, 60, well, 30 is still young, but 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, associates. And I think it's great to have big dreams, but they think like they're going to be the next Helen Mirren tomorrow. That's not the way it works. And they're probably not, right? It's a business. You have to sustain. You have to prove yourself as an entity. You have to pay your dues. Unless you're super young. If you're under 30, then you're set because you can break out as a superstar tomorrow. But I'm saying the reality. So, if you think you're going to be an A-list movie star and you're a bit, a little bit older, it may not happen. But then set realistic goals. Like for me, all I want to do is be back on TV. Like I've been before. I've proven it before. I can prove it again. I want to be back on TV and be, a series regular recurring role. If you put me on an HBO series next year, I'd be the happiest, actress in the world. So that's what I'm saying. Be realistic.
Yeah. So we've talked about Brooke Lewis Bellas, the actress, the producer, the writer. Shall we what are Brooke Lewis Bellas' passions and interests outside of film?
Nothing. Is that horrible? It's so funny. My husband and I talk about this all the time. It's so funny. I mean, I'll make this quick. It's like, I'm joking, but acting is my main passion. Always has been, always will be. The other part of me is I'm such a philanthropist. I was born a philanthropist. I have a huge heart, and I just am so passionate about helping others. It's so important to me, and to be humble about any successes I've had and to be able to give back to others, even if it's in a small way. That is my greatest passion. Other than that, I've only recently, like you're engaged, like I've only recently been married, and I'm so passionate about my husband and my marriage, and I'm so blessed and grateful. And, I'm learning to take time to calm down a bit and to take breaks to watch movies with my husband. But we laugh because so much of my passion is the entertainment industry, and it's just what's so, right? It's like so part of my soul, and I can't control that. It's like, just like I love going to red carpet events and going to award shows. I'm passionate about that. We go to Pantages Theater, shout out in Hollywood, the famous Pantages Theater. That's one of my most fun, passionate nights out on the town with my husband when they invite us to come walk the red carpet and see a Broadway show. Hamilton, those are my passions. Passion for me is watching movies. Passion for me is watching, binging Netflix series, and so it's just part of who I am. I love music. I love creativity. I'm passionate about that. And I'm passionate about integrity, friendships, family, things that really matter most, like integrity. I'm so passionate about speaking the truth, being the truth, living your truth. It's so important. That's part of life. That's just a huge passion.
Really can't argue with any of that, really. So I won't.
Thank you.
I would say, what are your career highlights? But from everything we've just been going through, I would say your entire life is your career highlight. Just because of everything.
Thank you. You're right. I mean, I think we've covered so much territory. And again, I surprise myself. And sometimes, I think, okay, well, this win or this award or this TV or this got picked up on Showtime, this aired on Stars TV. Like I've made it, and I've reached my peak. I don't need to, now I can coast from here. And it's never the truth. Again, just to reiterate, I said it earlier, winning the B Movie Award for Horror Actress Scream Queen of the Year 2010 was huge for me. I felt like it legitimized me as a horror actress and, created a name for myself. So many wonderful, honestly, awards just for acknowledgement, like winning the Stella Adler Best Actress Award at Action on Film in 2017 was huge for me, validated that maybe I'm doing a good job as an actress. And the Actors Awards, winning for Best Actress in a Drama for Sprinkles, and then Best Actress in a Independent Film for Psychotherapy. Just all of those things just really, to me, it's not ego, it's humility, and it grounds me and it reminds me that maybe I'm doing something right in this industry, but again, I think everything. I mean, I can go back to Tony and Tina's wedding, like Actors Equity in New York, 7 shows a week for 3 years when I was super young out of college, and calling into the Howard Stern show and working with Stuttering John, and, doing movies with all of the cast of, like, the Howard Stern show, everything. Like, it's so crazy. And it's so crazy now too, to like look back and backtrack to the indie films I did, where like here's the best part, making some of my best friends in the world, some of my best friends in the world from indie films I did 100 years ago. And they were at my wedding. They flew out from New York, like, it's just crazy. And to see some of the people, like, things that people don't see, shout out to Kelly Aquan, who is one of the stars of the TV series Billions. We did an indie little film, him, Eugene Bird, who was on, what was it? Bones, like all those shows. Like, it's so crazy. I look at or House, or all those, like, I look at these actors I've gotten to work opposite 20 years ago, and it's like they're all mega TV stars now. It's so incredible when I just like go down, like Mark Ruffalo and the memory lane, and working with Vin Diesel, another film I got cut out of, from F. Gary Gray, all these films that like I maybe had one line in or got cut out of, and getting to work with mega, Erwin Winkler, like, oh my gosh, crazy to meet A-list directors. It's been unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. And people, again, don't see those things,
Definitely. Have you got any other projects lined up that we haven't already discussed?
Wow, I think we have covered them. I think I've at least shouted out. And hopefully I'll be able to let you know street dates for a lot of them. So just keep a lookout and follow me on social media, because I always announce what's going on and where you can see my films.
I'm so glad you brought social media up, because if people have liked what they've heard and they would like to find you on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, even MySpace, even for us old timers. I know, I still have my MySpace page.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
How would they go about to find you?
Yes, thank you. So social media, I've got the Facebook fan page at Brooke Lewis LA. Just look for Brooke Lewis Bellas, but they're all actually Instagram, Twitter. I'm very active on at Brooke Lewis LA on both. And check out my websites, brookelewis.com. I always have everything updated there. Check out phillychickpictures.com for my production stuff, and check out msvampy.net as well. You can always have the latest updates there.
I have just followed you on Twitter. You'll be pleased to know.
Oh, thank you. I will make certain to follow back.
I hope you do. And on that social media exchange, ladies and gentlemen, and it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Brooke Lewis Bellas.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, listeners. I know it's a challenging time, everybody, but stay strong, stay true, stay integrous, and set your goals for 2021. Did I lose you guys?
No, sorry, Sarah. You can end it there if that's all right. Sorry.